co-sponsored by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first. They have Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better with Landmark. I'm here with Chairman of the Taylorville High School Hall of Fame Committee, Dave Hickson-Baugh. Welcome to the program, Dave.
Thanks. Glad to have you be here.
So you are here to announce that you're taking nominations for the High School Hall of Fame.
Right. Yeah. The Hall of Fame has been around for around 25 years, and we really try to recognize some of the outstanding athletes of Taylorville High School. And so we have a banquet every year. Our banquet's scheduled for April 23rd this year, and we want to get nominees of people who that other people might think are eligible that we could consider to be in the Hall of Fame.
I mean, gosh, there's some amazing people that have gone. Oh, one of the curtains.
Oh, Allison, of
Allison,
course.
right.
Yeah.
I had her name for a second, and then I immediately went to Linda Curtin, and that's not right.
That's right, yeah.
But
yeah,
no,
Allison, obvious, she's in the Hall of Fame.
Right, there's
she was a first-year balloter that got in. Yeah.
Right, I mean, and then to the undefeated team of, what is that, 1948?
1944.
1944.
Yeah, that team was inducted the very first year, obviously, along with members Johnny Orr and Ron Bontemps and Coach Dolph Stanley. So that's how we got started back in 1995.
Most recently, who did the Hall of Fame induct?
Well, our last induction, we had Bo Likens, Jairus Womack. People remember Bo and Jairus as both really good basketball players of the early late 1990s and early 2000s. They're probably one of the most recent we've had go in. But we've just had some great people go in. Bill Ridley, Chris Aldridge was one of the first women to go in. We're not discriminatory. If they're good, they go in, whether they're on the girls' teams or the boys' teams.
Yeah, and I think you guys have done a pretty good job of that. Now, this, if I understand right, you guys did not have a banquet this last year. Did you guys still have a class?
No, we did not. We feel that we didn't want to have a class and then have another one the next year and kind of take away from any of them, because we select maybe 4 to 5 members a year, and we don't want to make it seem like it's not really important. So if we doubled up a couple of years, then you'd have 11, 12, 13 people going in, and that would kind of water it down, I think. So we try to keep it small, important, and the banquet itself is a really nice event where each of the inductees come up and speak and tell a little history of themselves and their stories, and it's really an entertaining evening.
And the banquet is that evening that you're talking about here, which is coming up in April.
Right, April 23rd is when the banquet is. We will have it again at the high school cafeteria. Tickets will be on sale probably beginning in early April. And that's what I'm here for, is to try to get people to if you have friends who you think or acquaintances that you think should be in the Hall of Fame because they were great athletes, you need to get them nominated, because they can't be voted on unless we have an official nomination in hand. And they can get those at the high school. Just go to the high school office, you can get it, or you can go online and type in Taylorville High School Hall of Fame, Sports Hall of Fame, and there is a form in there, a PDF that you can fill out and print out and send in.
And what are some of the requirements for people to be nominated?
Yeah, that's a good question. They can be players. They don't all have to be players. They can be coaches, present coaches or past coaches. They can be friends of sports. Some of our friends of sports have been voted in. People like Mike Homa, who was a man who coached at St. Mary's and created a lot of players that eventually went into high school and became good players. Emo Mayer, who was responsible for helping start the Junior Football League and actually built the press box at the high school. People like that, we're always interested in trying to honor people who donate their time and efforts. Of course, players, and then there's also players to be named later, because to be eligible, they have to have graduated from Taylorville High School and received some kind of honors, like all conference, all state, outstanding player, MVP in a tournament or something. But there are some players who might be on a great team, but they didn't get all those accolades. And then they go to college and all of a sudden they bloom and they become very good. Or, for example, probably our greatest example, that's Pat Perry. Baseball, when Pat was in high school, was even dropped because of money problems. And so Pat went to college and ended up playing for the St. Louis Cardinals in the World Series. And so he certainly deserved honors being an outstanding athlete to go into the Hall of Fame.
From 1985 to 1990. Yeah, he's I'm actually looking at his baseball card right now.
All right, yeah. Pat was a heck of a baseball player. I taught him in the 5th grade, so we go back a long way together.
That's a heck of an accomplishment. Now, you want to be able to promote this, and again, you said it earlier that you can't make the Hall of Fame unless you're nominated. So, how can someone nominate another player? You mentioned you can come by the high school,
Sure.
go online.
Sure, yeah. Both of those ways are probably best. Just go to the high school office. They have forms there, or you can get on our website. If you go to the Taylorville High School website or Taylorville High School Sports Hall of Fame website, and there's a PDF. Click on there. You just click on that PDF, and you can print it out and fill it out, and then take it into the high school. Or if you can call me, and I'll even come by and pick it up for you, because we really want to get some nominees. You have to the nominee has to have been out of high school for 10 years, though. That's one of the requirements. So the people that would be eligible this year would be anybody who graduated from Taylorville High School 2012 or before.
Okay, and that's as far as the athletes go. Do coaches have to have graduated?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, coaches or friends, either would have to have graduated from high school.
Right. Okay, just trying to.
We also have teams that could be graduated too. If you think your maybe your child or your friend or acquaintance was on a really great athletic team in the past. Right now we have, I think I was looking, we have 16 teams that have been into the Hall of Fame, and needless to say, we've got a lot more than 16 teams that have played and been very successful. To be honest with you, this is a bias, and I'll just show you how these things go. But the 1944 state championship team obviously went into the Hall of Fame. The 1945 team only lost 2 or 3 games, and they're not in yet. And it's probably because of the same players or maybe been on some of the teams or something like that. Right. So there's always kind of extenuating circumstances that come into when guys decide who should go in and who shouldn't. And as a matter of fact, just to let you know, for a player to be selected, we have an 11-member committee. And to be selected, 9 of those members have to vote for a person or a team to go in.
Right. You have your nomination, which community members can submit the nomination, and then that nomination goes before the committee.
Right.
And you have to have 8 yes votes.
Right. And as a matter of fact, once a person is nominated, they only have to be nominated once. They will stay on the list forever, as far as that goes, or until they're selected. And right now we have close to 85 or 90 people on our list. So and teams when you put them together. So there's quite a selection out there, but we don't want to overlook anybody, because sometimes, especially in some of the what we consider not the major sports, not football or basketball or baseball, there are some outstanding athletes, and sometimes they get overlooked because they just don't get the publicity.
Right, the track and fields, the
bowling,
right?
Yeah, right.
I was just gonna go there. I'm blanking right now, but I know what you're talking about.
You got volleyball. You say track and field, wrestling, golf, right? Yeah, tennis. Right now we don't have a tennis team, but we've had tennis teams in the past, and if there are some players in the past that deserve it, we certainly want to see them recognized.
You're listening to the WTIM Morning Show with Chairman of the Taylorville High School Hall of Fame Committee, Dave Hicksonbaugh. Your stream co-sponsored by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better with Landmark. Back with more with Dave Hicksonbaugh in a moment, right here on WTIM, your information station.
Let's check the markets now on the RFD Radio Network for this Wednesday. I'm Jim Taylor. Corn higher, beans and wheat double-digit higher at this hour. March corn 607 3/4, up 8 1/4. May corn up 8 1/4, 608 1/4, and December corn up 5 1/4, 563. March beans 1386 1/2, up 25 1/4. May beans up 1/4, 1396, and July beans 1402 1/2, up 25 1/2. March wheat 781 1/2, up 12 1/2. May wheat up 12 3/4, 783. July wheat 773 1/4, up 13 3/4. March bean meal 399 even, up 890. March bean oil 60.39, up 131. In the livestock market at this hour, February live cattle up 147, 139.15. January feeders up 30 cents, 161.75. February lean hogs 81.70. That's up a dime. Look at the markets on the RFD Radio Network for this Wednesday morning. I'm Jim Taylor.
I'm Sarah Van Huss, Assistant Vice President at People's Bank and Trust in Pana and Taylorville. People's Bank and Trust is proud of their longtime sponsorship of Taylorville High School Students of the Month on the many News Talk WTIM platforms on AM, FM, and online.
Hello, my name is Christopher White. I am the Freshman Student of the Month for Taylorville High School. My parent is Jessica White. I am in Pride Club. I like to draw. I like music, dance, and hanging out with my friends. My future plans are animating for Disney. That way I can inspire kids that watch the same movies that I did.
People's Bank and Trust congratulates these Taylorville High School Students of the Month and wishes them the best in their continued education. We put people first at People's Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance? There's a tremendous price war among the major term life companies. Rates have dropped dramatically in the past 2 years. For example, a man age 45 non-tobacco user, $1 million of coverage is only $75 per month, level for the next 10 years. Or a man age 50 non-tobacco user can buy $500,000 of coverage for a monthly premium of only $110. Guaranteed not to change for the next 20 years. That's right, level rates for 20 years. And if you're a smoker, we have great rates for you as well. At the Term Lifeline, we specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. So if you're looking for new or replacement term life insurance, call right now for a free quote.
Rates and availability may vary by state. Sample rate quotes are based on preferred non-tobacco underwriting exam required to qualify.
866-540-8376. 866-540-8376. 866-540-8376. That's 866-540-8376.
Welcome back to the WTIM Morning Show. I'm Avery Cooper here with Taylorville High School Sports Hall of Fame Chairman Dave Hicksonbaugh. And, you know, Dave, you're here to talk about how the committee is taking nominations, and there's a banquet coming up in April. Briefly, maybe just summarize everything going on with the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, well, the Hall of Fame's been around for 25 years. It began, I can give you a little history behind it. It began when Taylorville was playing in the Apollo Conference, and back then we had to travel to Paris and Newton and Robinson, and those were about 3-hour trips, 2.5 to 3-hour trips. And a friend of mine whose son played basketball along with my son, Bill Ikens, we'd go to these games together, and traveling back and forth, we started, dreaming like parents do and people do. And we said, it'd be nice to have a Hall of Fame. So we kind of put it down on paper, took it to the school board. They approved it. We talked to the sports boosters. They support it. And so in 1995, we had our first induction. Like I said earlier, had the 44 state championship team inducted along with Johnny Orr and Ron Bontemps. Bill Ridley went in that year, Coach Dolph Stanley, and it was just a great time, and people thought this was a pretty good idea. So we've continued that since that time, and we have now close to 100 members of the Hall of Fame as far as friends, players after high school, and teams. And the banquet itself annually is a very well-attended affair. One of our goals is to try to connect the current players with the former players to get that historic connection. So when you walk on that historic gym floor out at Taylorville High School to play basketball, or the new field that we've got for football, people would say, "Hey, this is the same field that Johnny Orr played. Johnny Orr played football too. Matter of fact, went to the University of Illinois and played football." But get to know that some of these people that you've heard about actually played on the same things and practiced the same way you did. And we just think that's an important thing to keep alive historically.
I think that as well. Now you again are taking nominations for your banquet coming up in April.
Yeah, I just like to underline, I guess, again, that to be nominated, you have to have been out of high school for 10 years, so since 2012 for the current group. But once you're nominated, you're always in there. So anybody, matter of fact, we have people that went to high school here in the 1930s who have been nominated. They're still on the list. But to be nominated, you have to have graduated from high school, obviously at Taylorville High School. If you're a player, if you're not a player, then obviously you don't have to. But you have to have, had some kind of honors, all conference, all state, all something like that. And then once you're nominated, you will be on the ballot. And just like in the Baseball Hall of Fame, our ballot, we have 11 members. The members vote. 9 of the 11 have to vote for you or the person to get in. And once that's done, we honor them with a banquet. And that banquet this year is going to be April 23rd.
So 9 of 11?
9 of 11.
So you go about an 81% yes rate to be
accepted. It's not easy. And that's the reason we try to keep it low on purpose, because we want it to be important. We don't want somebody who just, maybe set the free throw record or something like that. And that's all they did to get in, compared to somebody who was an all-state player and ended up going and playing college and things like that. We want to make sure that when somebody gets in, it's valuable.
The record for most hit by pitches. Anybody? Right.
Anybody. Right.
But with this banquet itself coming up in April, when are you starting to sell tickets?
We'll probably start selling tickets usually the first week of April. We try to sell those. There'll be something in the newspaper surely, and hopefully I'll be back on here and talk to people about getting that done. But we usually have somewhere between 150 to 200 people attend that, and we get very good reviews on it. It's usually just a very enjoyable evening, because when you hear these athletes talk, many of them are in their senior citizen years when they do get to go in. And when they start telling stories about what happened back in the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s, we just sit back and enjoy the entertainment. It's really nostalgic and very enjoyable.
Ticket price includes obviously the event itself.
Food. Tickets are $25. Will be $25. Mm-hmm. It is a meal, sit down meal. It's served. It's not a buffet. Served meal, and then we have the speakers speak. With food prices the way they're going, and we think it's a pretty good deal ticket wise as far as the meal goes, and it's a catered meal, and we think we try to do it as first class as we possibly can.
Have about 1 minute left wrapping up this interview. Dave, anything that you would like to cover, or anything that maybe I didn't cover so well?
No, I think just that, Taylorville has such a rich history in athletics and sports. We've won state championships in basketball. We've had football teams that have gotten to near the state championship, to the final four. We've had state champions in track. Bruce Aiken was a state champion in the 100 and 200 back in 1965. So we have such a rich tradition. We just want to keep it alive and let people know what has happened. And, I look on Facebook and we see the Taylorville Now and Forever web thing on Facebook, and people seem to have a renewed interest in the history of Taylorville. And this is a great opportunity, not just to see it, but to listen to the people who help make it.
Dave Hicksonbaugh is the chairman of the Taylorville High School Hall of Fame Committee. Thank you so much for coming on the program, Dave.
It's been my pleasure. I appreciate you having me.
Listening to the WTIM Morning Show. Your stream co-sponsored by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better with Landmark.
The Big 870 WTIM Assumption Taylorville, 96.1 W241 CF Taylorville, 107.5 W298 CD Shelbyville, 107.9 W300 EH Payne and Nokomis.